Manchester United 3, Everton 1. I'm joined by Stephen Howson. 7 wins in a row for Manchester United now, into the next round of the Cup. Not the best performance, but a big win that, and a good win that, wasn't it?
Why don't you think it was a good performance?
I thought we were quite open. I thought that we allowed more chances than we should have done. I didn't think defensively we looked as good as we have done recently.
Hey, mate, I think Everton went for it. I think they looked open because I think one thing Lampard attempts to do is to get bodies forward, and that's what he was doing. He was just getting bodies forward.
In the first half, though, I thought they were sitting like ludicrously deep, like on their own 6-yard line at times, which surprised me. Obviously, second half they pushed out a bit more, but I didn't think United played that well.
Yeah, you're right. They did defend deep positionally, but on the transition, they're actually fucking hilariously shit. Like on the transition, they're so open. It's literally like they've not been told what to do, and they're just sort of like fucking running around, spinning around, looking at the sky and stuff like that. I can't believe he's a professional manager.
They do look a little bit go out there and enjoy yourselves as a team, don't they? Like, play for the shirt rather than any sort of tactics.
Lampard looks broken, doesn't he? Did you see him at the end? You wouldn't have watched the interview, would you? The interview at the end, he almost looked like he was going to cry.
Yeah,
I don't think he came to Old Trafford expecting a win tonight by any stretch of the imagination, but like they kept sort of. They weren't like, so you're getting a sack then or what? But they were sort of leaning, because you know what they're like with Lampard and Gerrard. They'll never acknowledge how shit either of them are. But you can see them sort of rounding the, you're not very good, are you? Sort of question. And he's just like, don't want to talk about it.
The reason they're never that harsh is because BT and BBC and Sky, whoever, they'll want him as a pundit in about 6 hours time after he gets sacked by Everton. Same thing with Gerrard. They always want on the back foot for them in the back burner for them to like whichever company it is. Speaking of good managers then, instead of bad managers, Ten Hag, I think it's 15 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss in the last 18, 7 wins in a row. Currently, I mean, the best win ratio of any Manchester United manager ever by about 14% or something. Obviously, it's massively early days, but at the minute, it's looking really good for Ten Hag, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the signs were there early doors that you could see the shape that he wanted, and immediately he was getting stuck into the big decisions. And I think it can't be overplayed. The first time he was tested was with Garnacho on the tour. He just was like, yeah, cool story. Sit the fuck down. I'm the manager. And then there's a couple of people have tried to test him since then. Marcus, Ronaldo, blah, 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 blah. And he's just, cool story, I'm the fucking gaffer. Do you agree? Or would you like to go somewhere else? And I think it's the first time, I can't imagine Louis or Mourinho didn't want to be as much of a boss as he is. I think this might be something Richard Arnold needs a bit of credit for. He's allowing him to do what the football club needs rather than what the PLC needed, which is what I think a lot of Woodward's decisions were based on. They even told us, didn't they? Oh, what's it saying on Twitter?
Yeah. Fan sentiment graphs.
Is Ten Hag in charge? Let him be in charge. Because that's why Sir Alex was as good as he was. I mean, there's probably more than one factor at why he was so good as he was. But ultimately, the buck stopped with him in every aspect. He was the boss. And I think until someone's actually allowed to build the club in their image again, the way Matt Busby was, the way Sir Alex was, it'll never be a success until then. But I've got more confidence in this current regime. Even if the Glazers are still in charge, he will get as good of a tune as he's capable of getting out of this team because he's the boss.
Yeah, and it's good as well because it seems like his sort of punishment or the ramifications of doing something wrong, they make sense. They fit the crime as well. They're repeatable. It feels like Jose may have gone, if you're late for training, or it felt like he'd like to make an example of someone sometimes, where he'd come out and say things that were way worse than what you deserve for the thing you've actually done wrong. Whereas Ten Hag, you're late for a meeting, you don't start the game, but you can still come on as a sub in the second half and score a goal. You walk off before it's time, you get dropped for a game and you're not in the squad. Like, that makes sense. It seems it's
then
like
I'll make you captain the week after.
Yeah, exactly. You can't argue with any of it because the punishment fits the crime, but also he can do it consistently no matter who it's to. Like I said, maybe Arnold and maybe the people above him aren't putting quite as much pressure on him to play the sort of the big Twitter numbers players like Ronaldo or whatever, because we need to do what's right on the pitch. But speaking of right on the pitch, Marcus Rashford is, I would personally say, probably in the best form he's ever been in, because to me he's more involved in games when he's not scoring at the moment than he has been in the past, even when he has been scoring, if you know what I mean. It seems like everything goes through him at the moment. Goals, chances, it's like he's involved all the time, and we're seeing that output from him. The turnover from last season...
Does he get 2 assists for that tonight?
He won't get an assist for the Coda one, I don't think, because it was an own goal. But obviously he created that goal. He scored the third. He got the assist for the first. It's just all about him at the minute. And the way he's turned it around, how do you explain that, really? Because it's absolutely miraculous, really, isn't it?
It's 100% definitely performance-enhancing drugs.
Say no more. I'd not thought about that angle, but actually now you say it makes sense. Just go on loads of steroids, that'll work.
I don't have fucking no idea what it is, but he's playing with such a level at the moment that it's phenomenal to see. You know, he is he's playing with confidence, and that's, I think, such an underrated aspect of footballers. A lot of things about watching him last year didn't make sense. Like, so you go, okay, 1+1 didn't make pre-season. Came into the season late, was rushed through the mini sort of pre-season you had because of us was injured. But why are you still not fixed 6 months later? Why are you not chasing that ball? Why has your touch deserted you? Like, I can accept, you know, a lot of footballers you speak to will talk about the emphasis and the importance of a good pre-season. You're like, okay, I can absolutely abide by a good pre-season, set you up right for the season. I can't abide by a truncated pre-season means that you don't no longer have a touch. That doesn't make sense. No. It doesn't make sense where his attitude and his body language were not there. He didn't look arsed. And that was the hardest thing to take as a United fan. Knowing Marcus and knowing what, you know, he bleeds for this fucking club, that didn't make any sort of sense.
Yeah. At
all. And that's the biggest thing that has changed for me. And you know, that's the most pleasing thing.
Yeah, and confidence is massive in it. I was saying that on the watch along. It's like, because you can't put a stat on it, it almost sort of goes under the radar with sort of irrelevancy. Like, it's not a number, it's not a training regime, it's not a cone in this position and this model and this pressing, but it makes so much difference to just how well people play. And I feel like Ten Hag understands that.
I think they're huge. Attitude and body language are massive. Yeah. You know, I think that's one of the few things I think a player can control that. Maybe not as much as we would like, but I feel like a player can control those things. But yeah, for whatever reason, he's on fire at the minute. It's a good job he is as well. I think the defence is performing well, the midfield's performing well, but the attack outside of Marcus is really fucking dropping the ball at the minute. I know Anthony got on the score sheet tonight, but I thought it was a poor performance, or at least an ordinary performance from him. Martial was pretty anonymous. And that's been the story of the last month or so, really. Without Marcus, we'd be well in the shit.
It's a bit worrying, that, isn't it?
Games.
Yeah. Just looking forward then. So obviously Charlton next to go into hopefully a semi-final of the League Cup. Then it's City and Arsenal back-to-back. Then it's Barcelona after that. Then obviously there's a fourth round FA Cup to fit in there as well. What are your expectations for this season? Because those sort of 5 or 6 games will really tell us whether second half of the season, it's kind of eye on the top of the table or eye on 5th place. It'll tell us whether we've still got a trophy. Like, there's a potential that in the next 6 weeks we have got nothing to play for, or we've got everything to play for. What do you think will the sort of our season will look like come mid-Feb by the time those games are behind us?
I think we'll progress in everything.
Oh, yes.
And I think if we can get 4 points out of City and Arsenal, I think we are in a serious position. I'm not going to say we're in a title race because I don't think we are, but I think we are setting ourselves up to be taken seriously next season. Like, if we can build in some momentum. I can't remember who said this. Someone said this on punditry the other day. I think it might have been Gary Neville. And it was before City became title challengers, before Liverpool became title challengers. Yes, you have your outliers like Leicester, but they don't stick around. You could argue Liverpool didn't stick around either. But they're around for a minute. You know, they're in the mix. They're coming second. They're in a title race that they might lose, but no one goes from being outside the wire to lifting the gold and sticks around doing it. I think you have to sort of slowly level up, and it has to be built on good foundations to be able to keep you there and not be a fluke. Do you know what I mean? And I think I don't think we're winning the league this year. I don't think that's a crazy statement. I think the crazy statement would be the other way around. But if we can put together a run where you go, fucking hell, United won like 26 of the last 35 games or something like that, you go, that's not far off, proper title form.
Yeah.
That means you got to look at them, especially if we have another window like we had in the summer, next summer, this summer. Then you might start saying, do you know what? If they start well, you might have to be looking at United for a title challenge. But I don't think we're there. Yeah, and I think the games that we've lost this season and the sheer weight of competitions and lack of striker, I think we'll come unstuck at some stage this season. But I just think if you can get it to the stage where you can finish strong and this group of players can look each other in the eye and go, we can fix some of the problems that we had last year, or we've already fixed some of the problems that we had last year. We know we can go to City, Liverpool, and beat them and compete with them. Let's have it. And I think you go from like a strong finish, even a third this season, if it's a strong third, wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to go from third to first next year. But there's a lot of things that have to get right before that happens. And you're probably due at least one clanger in the transfer market. So.
Very exciting. I like it when you lay it all out. 18 months' time, we're going to be champions. That's what you're saying, and you're going to stick by that no matter what. Right, thank you very much for joining us, Steve. Hit subscribe to Stretford Paddock if you haven't already. We're aiming for 700,000 subscribers, so hit subscribe and help us get there. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you in a bit.